Welcome to The Explainer. We tend to think of animal species as having these really firm, uncrossable lines. But today, we're diving beneath the waves, where those lines are getting a whole lot blurrier than you might think. Our story starts in a pretty unexpected place. Not a fancy lab, but a dusty tool shed on the coast of Greenland. For years, this strange skull just sat on a shelf. Its features were a total puzzle. When scientists finally got their hands on it, they knew they were looking at something that, according to the rulebook of biology, just shouldn't exist. Then in 2019, DNA testing came back with a stunning answer. The skull belonged to a narluga, the impossible hybrid of a narwhal and a beluga whale. And get this, they are the only two whale species in their entire biological family. And somehow, out in the vast Arctic, they created something completely new. To really appreciate just how bizarre this is, you have to look at the parents. A narwhal is basically the unicorn of the sea, right? Famous for that single, massive tusk. A beluga, on the other hand, has a mouthful of these uniform, peg-like teeth. So two totally different designs. What kind of teeth do you think their offspring inherited? The answer is neither. The narluga skull had this wild set of 18 teeth, all spiraling and curling forward. Bone analysis suggests this creature actually invented its own way to eat, hunting on the seafloor, a lifestyle completely different from either of its parents. It literally carved out a new niche for itself. Okay, so let's dive into this. The narluga is a real showstopper, no doubt. But it turns out nature has been running these kinds of experiments for a long, long time, especially when animal territories start to overlap. And yeah, the ocean is full of these surprises. You've got the wolfin, that's a cross between a false killer whale and a bottlenose dolphin. You've got the huge bluefin whale hybrid, which might just be the largest hybrid animal to ever live. These aren't just one-off flukes, it's a recurring pattern out there in the wild. And this is just a perfect illustration of the genetic math going on. A bottlenose dolphin has 88 teeth. A false killer whale has 44. Their hybrid kid, the wolfin, it has exactly 66 teeth. The perfect average. It's a living, swimming testament to genetic compromise. So nature does this stuff by accident, but what happens when we start doing it on purpose? Well, we've harnessed this natural phenomenon and turned it into a pretty powerful tool.
For decades, we've been playing genetic matchmaker to solve some very specific problems. You need caviar, but you don't want to wait decades for a sturgeon to mature? No problem. Create a bester. You need to save an abalone species from a disease? Let's engineer a tougher crossbreed. Need a farmed fish that grows faster? Well, meet the dragon tiger grouper.
The Bester sturgeon is a classic story. Back in the mid-20th century, Soviet aquaculturists had a huge problem. The wild beluga sturgeon, the source of the world's best caviar, were becoming critically endangered. Their hybrid solution didn't just create a new source, it actually took the pressure off the wild population.
And this brings us to a really crucial point. Hybridization isn't just some weird fluke of nature or a handy tool for industry. It might be something way more profound, an evolutionary strategy for a world that's changing faster than ever before. You know, there is no better poster child for this than the growler bear. As climate change melts the sea ice, polar bears are forced onto land. And who do they run into? Grizzly bears. The inevitable result is a completely new wild hybrid whose very existence is a direct consequence of a warming planet, redrawing the map.
And this isn't just happening in the Arctic. Off the coast of Australia, hybrid sharks are pushing into cooler waters where neither of their parent species could survive. On the Great Barrier Reef, hybrid corals are showing better resistance to the warming waters that cause all that catastrophic bleaching. These hybrids aren't just surviving the change. In some cases, it looks like they were built for it.
So if these hybrids aren't just surviving, but they're actually thriving, well, it leads to the ultimate question. What happens when a hybrid is so successful, it's not really a hybrid anymore? What if it becomes something entirely new?
There's a scientific term for this. It's called hybrid speciation. It's that moment when two different species merge to create a third, stable one. For ages, scientists pretty much figured this was impossible for big marine animals. The genetic barriers were just considered way too high.
And they were wrong. Meet the Clemenade dolphin. In 2014, genetic tests proved it. Its DNA is a mosaic, woven together from spinner and striped dolphins. It was the first confirmed case of a marine mammal becoming its own distinct species through hybridization, and it completely upended our understanding of how life evolves in the ocean.
This discovery forces us to ask a really tough question. If the lines between species can blur and even merge, what on earth does that mean for how we try to protect them? And that question isn't theoretical at all. It's one of the biggest challenges facing conservation today, because how can you protect a species when its very definition is starting to dissolve?
And nowhere is this dilemma clearer than on a single nesting beach in Brazil. It has become a massive genetic melting pot where at least 5 different species of sea turtle, many of them endangered, are all interbreeding.
And here's the conservation nightmare. The female hybrids are fertile, and they're returning to that same beach to lay their own mixed ancestry eggs. This means they are actively diluting the unique gene pools of their endangered parent species. I mean, how do you protect a loggerhead turtle if its own offspring are part hawksbill?
So from a single mysterious skull to a global conservation dilemma, these hybrids prove that evolution isn't some dusty chapter in a textbook. It's a messy, unpredictable, and fascinating story that's being written right now. It leaves you with one final thought. What other impossible creatures are taking shape right at this moment, just beneath the waves?